Hey, you guys, Lutrish Morris here with Eden Life. Thank you so much for popping in for today's devotional and discussion. The key theme and question for today is, are you hydrating well? Now, when I ask this question to people, are you drinking enough water? You hear a lot of people all the time, man, I'm drinking plenty of water. I drink water all the time. But statistics actually show that 75 to 80% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. That means that a lot of us think we're getting enough, but we're not getting near enough water. Now, throughout this challenge and beyond it, I hope you're making it a point to hydrate well, to get plenty of water. It is so incredibly important for your health that you are getting plenty of water. And I mean, good, clean, fresh water, not like, well, I had water that was mixed into my tea, or I had water in coffee, or they used water in making the soda. That stuff doesn't count because all of those things actually work to dehydrate your body. And so you want to make sure that you are getting plenty of fresh water. If you have a problem with the taste of it, then you can add a little fruit, do a little fruit infusion or something like that. But you want to make sure that you are staying adequately hydrated. Now, when I hear the statistics, you guys may think me a little nerdy, I guess. I don't know, but I see some spiritual parallels in there too. Like, I wonder how many of us think we're getting plenty of water, but don't even realize that we need so much more than what we're actually getting, and that we could be taking in so much more than we actually are. I found it interesting recently on hearing a message on God's Spirit, how it was put that, we can be filled with the Spirit, but not in the Spirit. Like, that's not what we want at all, right? We want to be not only filled with God's Spirit, but we want to be submersed in it as well, right? So that's what actually really got my mind going as I was reading through Ezekiel 47. Some of you guys may have seen the little brief late night video I did talking on this. If not, that's cool. We're going to cover it here. So going to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 47, we read, "The man brought me back to the entrance to the temple, and I saw water coming out from under the threshold of the temple toward the east, for the temple faced east. The water was coming down from under the south side of the temple, south of the altar. He then brought me out through the north gate and led me around the outside to the outer gate facing east, and the water was trickling from the south side. As the man went eastward with a measuring line in his hand, he measured off 1,000 cubits, and then he led me through a water that was ankle deep. He measured off another 1,000 cubits and led me through water that was knee deep. He measured off another 1,000 and led me through water that was up to the waist. He measured off another 1,000, but now it was a river that I could not cross because the water had risen and was deep enough to swim in, a river that no one could cross. He asked me, 'Son of man, do you see this?' Then he led me back to the bank of the river. When I arrived there, I saw a great number of trees on each side of the river. He said to me, 'This water flows toward the east region and goes down into the Arabah, where it enters the Dead Sea. When it empties into the sea, the salty water there becomes fresh. Swarms of living creatures live wherever the river flows. There will be large numbers of fish because this water flows there and makes the salt water fresh. So where the river flows, everything will live. Fishermen will stand along the shore from En-Gedi to En-Eglaim. There will be places for spreading nets. The fish will be of many kinds, like the fish of the Mediterranean Sea. But the swamps and marshes will not become fresh. They will be left for salt. Fruit trees of all kinds will grow on both banks of the river. Their leaves will not wither, nor will their fruit fail. Every month they will bear fruit, because the water from the sanctuary flows to them. Their fruit will serve for food, and their leaves for healing." I love verse 9 where we read, "So where the river flows, everything will live." So life was in the river, and wherever the river flowed, there was life, right? This angel of God was measuring or marking out the distance, then calling him out further each time. When he first got in, it was only about ankle deep, right? It was just enough for a good splash. Yet as he got out further and further, it eventually got to where it was so deep that he could swim in it, and deep enough that and wide enough that no one could cross it. So it was not only extremely deep, it was extremely wide too, right? So this drew my mind to our walk with God and how He's always looking to take us deeper than we've ever been, right? We're not always willing, but He is always drawing and He is always beckoning us to come on out just a little bit further, just a little bit further. You know, when we first step in, when we first start getting into the things of God and getting into the church and all that, we like to be over here in this shallow end where we feel safe, right? It's fun, it's refreshing. You know, we can get in and out as we want to and move around as we please, right? We have a sense of control in the situation with where we're standing, right? It's enough that we're getting to splash about, try it out, and experience it, but we can kind of come and go, right? Now, as we start really getting into it, we might find ourselves over here where it's knee deep or maybe even waist deep, right? Where there's a little more pressure to go with the current, but all in all, we're still on our own footing and we can still kindly navigate where we want to go, right? Some of us, when we really start getting into it, we might make our way out where it's like knee deep or even waist deep, and we're really getting into it, right? But we still have our own footing. You know, we still maintain a sort of like a sense of control. Like if we don't really like how things are going over here, we still have the ability to make our way, you know, over in another direction and kind of move where we think we want to go. Now we can go for a quick dip and enjoy that feeling of being submersed, but we can just as quickly hop right to our feet and, you know, make our way out. Something happens when we go out further. You know, something happens when we get to that point where our feet don't touch the bottom anymore. It's no more a matter of just being in the river, but being overtaken by it. Now, when we're that far out in the river, we go where the river goes. And there are times when we are just having the time of our lives, and there are going to be times in that when it is the scariest thing ever, and we are most certain that we are going to drown, like, and that's just going to be the end of us. You know, let's get real. It's exhilarating, yes, but the thought of it all can be downright scary at times. I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, the thought of that can be scary. If just being honest, you know, we have our own goals and ambitions and desires, things that we want out of life, pictures that we've painted of what we think our future should look like. We have so many things that we think we've got planned out so well. And the idea of just jumping all in this river, and it possibly taking us in a different direction isn't always so appealing to us. And it's kind of funny that we get caught up in thinking that way, because when we know God and we understand His heart toward us, we understand that we could never will for our own lives better than what He has already got planned for us, right? We could never dream up, conjure up, imagine, and bring forth a life for ourselves better than the one that God has already planned and desires for us to take hold of. But so often we kind of get our minds in a place of saying, well, this is what we think life should look like, and this is what we want to take hold of, and we feel like we're just over here waiting on God to help bring those things to pass. When I have to wonder, you know, is God over here waiting on us because we're back there waiting around in His waters, just splashing around, not ready to just jump all in? You know, is God actually waiting for us to be all in His river so He can take us where He has in mind for us to go? It can be scary sometimes. You know, the idea of being that kind of all in and just saying, okay, God, wherever you want to take me, I'll go. It's odd that we can be frightened by it because there's that uncertainty. We don't know exactly where He's going to take us, and we don't know what challenges we might run into along the way. You know, sometimes it can be just a nice little stroll down the river, and sometimes it can be like we are just, you know, white water rafting without the raft. You know, like it can be choppy and crazy and wild and just like mind-blowing. But I think incredible things happen when we're that kind of all in for God, when we trust Him and His love towards us enough that we are willing to be overtaken by Him wherever that may lead, right? The reality is that we can never outgive God. We can never give God more of ourselves than He has already given us. And we cannot even begin to imagine the kind of life that He has fashioned us, and the kind of things that that He can't wait to bring us to and to bring us through. If we would just let go and let Him, He'll take us there. If we would just but follow His lead as He continues to draw us out into deeper waters, right? How incredible it is to not only be filled with God's Spirit, but to be submersed in it as well. So, in step with today's sort of theme, I'll say, don't get dehydrated. The water gives life, and life more abundantly. Don't go for a splash when you can go for a swim and experience the thrill and the ride of a lifetime. So, are you getting plenty of water? That is our question for today. Are you staying adequately hydrated? Are you enjoying as much of the water as you could or should be enjoying? Or are there some areas in your life where you think maybe you need God to replenish you today, to refresh you today? That's a question I think we all have to ask ourselves, not just today, but pretty regularly, Pretty periodically, saying, "Okay, God, am I all in with you? Am I enjoying your river and your living water as much as you would have me enjoy it?" And are we allowing Him to draw us out? Are we resisting, or are we coming when He calls? When He seeks to draw us out into deeper waters, are we willing to go? I have to ask myself that. But I can tell you, I don't, I look at my life and I don't want to be standing on the side, afraid to jump in. I don't know about you, but I want to be all in. I want to be willing to be all in and to trust God in such a way as to be willing to go wherever His river takes me. And that, I think, is something that we all have to continue to take steps toward. It's not always so simple as just saying, "All right, I'm going to dive in," but being willing to let God call us out further and further into His waters. So that wraps up today's devotional. I hope it has blessed you, and I would love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments, and for you to just help keep the discussion going. What do you get from this passage? What revelation is God giving you today? Even if it's not from this passage, where has He got you today? And how do you sense Him calling you out and drawing you out into deeper waters? So thank you guys so much for stopping in. I look forward to hearing your feedback. I hope that all is well and that you are having an incredible week. I pray that you are enjoying good health, even as your soul prospers. I look forward to connecting with you guys here soon. I pray you great blessings and prosperity in the coming days and weeks and months ahead, and look forward to connecting with you further. Until next time, take care and God bless.